oh yeah, and this meeting will be recorded and we'll send out the slides. So you guys shouldn't worry about anything. We'll have everything. We'll have all the resources for you so you can come back to it, because Git is very confusing. Like we talked about in our own meeting, is that you never become a master at working with Git. You maybe understand things better as you go along, but you can never really master this thing. So let's to start off with, we'll talk about the few new execs who have joined the team. They'll have a chance to introduce themselves. We'll talk about what is Git, what is GitHub, what are the purposes of both, what do they do. Then we'll have the demo for both Git and GitHub. We'll show you what you need to do on the website and also what you need to do on your own local machine. And then we'll finish off with some final announcements at the end of the meeting, just for the future of the club, so you guys could stay informed. And I'll pass it off to our first new exec, to our assistant treasurer, Olive Casareno.
Thank you, Sam. Hi, everyone. My name is Olive. I'm going to be your new assistant treasurer for the CSS Club. Right now, I've been shadowing Annie, and she's been showing me all the ropes with budgeting, forms, and stuff like that. I became an exec of this club so that I could fully immerse myself in the club and contribute to the team. I feel like the more you learn, the better off you are in the corporate environment. So I definitely wanted to just get all the knowledge that I could. Some of my fun facts are that I started coding just earlier this year. So I taught myself HTML, CSS, a little bit of JavaScript, and Python. I love doing DIY projects, especially with computer hardware. And my favorite film genres are action and animation. So like anime and stuff like that. And now I'm going to pass it off to our new assistant secretary, Denora Vasquez.
Hi, everybody. I am the new assistant secretary, and I joined the club because I like helping others and contributed to communities like this and sharing resources. And a couple of fun facts about me is that I live in both Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico before, yes, during Maria. And I love games a lot, but my favorite genre is MMORPG. And my favorite series on Netflix is a zombie series. The name is Kingdom, and I really recommend it. Now we pass it to Leandro to continue with the workshop. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Olive and Denora, and welcome to the team again. You guys will definitely be a big addition to our team and the events that we plan for the rest of the semester. But now to get started with the meeting, and what we'll be going over today, like we mentioned, we'll talk a little bit about Git and GitHub, then we'll go straight into a demo. So what is Git? Git is a free distributed version control system. It is maintained in your local system. In Apple users' case, if you don't already know about terminal, or Windows users like Git Bash. But in simple terms, it is a software tool that helps software teams and individuals like yourselves manage changes to your source code over time. So in other words, it tracks any code change that you may write in your IDE like Visual Studio Code or Atom, and it stores them in case you'd like to do something with that code in the future. Git also saves previous versions of your code, and it makes it easier to keep track of your code changes. So just a quick summary of Git, it basically keeps tracks of all your files only once you connect your terminal and your GitHub account. And just look to go further in depth. So typically when using Git, you would want to create a branch when testing out a new feature or adding new features to your project. And don't worry if you don't know what a branch is yet, we'll be going over that in a demo shortly. And lastly, Git is relatively simple to use once you get used to the commands, and it also makes it easier to collaborate with other programmers. And this is where GitHub comes into play, the better half, if you will. So what is GitHub? So now that you know what Git is, or a little bit at least, you may be asking, I know what Git is and what it is used for, but where will we store all these coding changes, and how are we able to collaborate with other programmers? Is it all done with Git? The answer is yes and no. So think of GitHub as a cloud or a massive database that holds any project that you're currently working on. Using Git, you would upload any new code changes to your code to GitHub, and then GitHub then enables you to keep track of any new changes to your code, previous changes to your code in cases you like to revert your changes in case you mess something up on your website or project. You'll also be able to review other people's projects and possibly collaborate with them through Git. But overall, GitHub is an amazing way to store all your code you've written and a great way to keep track of all your code. Okay, so that's a quick summary on Git. I think you guys will get a much better understanding through the demo. Before we get to the demo, just a quick process of typical steps that you would take when using these two tools. So usually you will start out by connecting your IDE. For this demo, we'll be using Visual Studio Code, but feel free to use whatever IDE you like. So once you connect it to your terminal or Git, then you would make changes to your files, add new code, and then you commit these changes. So commit basically tells Git that you want to add the new changes that you made to your GitHub, and then you create branches. So let's say if you're creating you were creating a new feature, like say you wanted to add a button to your website or something, you would create a branch, and a branch basically creates a copy of everything in your main files, and it doesn't affect it. So anything you do in that branch, it won't affect your main file. And afterwards, you'll push all your changes through Git, everything through Git, and all these changes would appear in your GitHub account. So this is basically what we'll be going over today in today's demo. So let's get started. Let me first get set up. In the meantime, if you haven't seen my message, head over to the GitHub repository that is linked in the chat, and we'll get started in about a minute. Okay, let me set up my screen. Yeah, that's a good question, Tyler. We'll be making a public repository. It doesn't make a difference for this demo, but if you want just to keep practice, I'd make it private, but public, it doesn't really matter. Okay, are you guys able to see my screen? Cool. Okay, so let's quickly scrap. So I sent the link to this repository in the chat. Throughout the demo, we'll keep this. I'm going to keep this screen open the entire time because this repo includes steps like installing Git. So we'll be talking about installing Git, adding a Git username, your GitHub email, and creating branches, stuff like that. So before we get started, I recommend everyone make a GitHub account real quick. It shouldn't take any more than 2 minutes. So yeah, so let's take 2 minutes to download GitHub. So I'll send the GitHub link in the chat, and we'll be back in 2 minutes. GitHub desktop might be a bit more confusing. For now, I'd recommend to use the website instead. And then once you get familiar with using Git and GitHub through like the website, then the desktop will be much easier to use. But for today, we'll be using the website. And also in this repo, you'll see that we've included a bunch of resources for like GitHub commands. There's like a cheat sheet that contains all the commands that Git contains. if you want to watch a YouTube video after the meeting, there's that, and there's also a bunch of resources when it comes to using Git and GitHub to collaborate with others. Okay, so the first step we can get started is by installing Git. So let's install Git. So I'm going to copy the link. And if you click on the Git link, it'll take you to this website on the left screen. And in there, whether you have a Mac or Windows, you would download it. And follow these commands. So let me open up terminal too. Yeah, so if this is the first time you're installing Git, we would just copy this command and paste it in your terminal and press enter. Yeah, so for Mac users, usually Git would already be installed. So if you're a Mac user, then you would just need to enter the git // version command to see if it is installed. So if you get a output that says something like git version and the version of whatever Git you have, then you know that Git is already installed. So you would skip the installing Git step. But if you're a Windows user, you'd want to click on the Git link and then begin the installing process from there. So we can take about a minute to do this. Shouldn't take any longer than that. For any Windows users, Mac users, you should be fine. And for Windows users, once you've done installing it, just enter this command. I'll copy and paste it into your terminal or command line in your case, and if you get an output, then we could proceed. And if not, you'll have to retry the previous steps. Okay, and if you have any questions throughout the presentation, just let me know, or any of the execs, and we'll answer it in the chat. If you want me to slow down, I could do it as well, but let's keep moving forward. So now we're going to add our Git username. This is one of the first few steps that you need to do in order to connect your Git and your command line to your GitHub account. So let's get started with that. We should have a GitHub account. If you don't, quickly make an account, but we'll proceed. So let's open up your terminal, or Windows users, your command line, and you should be taken to something like appears like this. Tells you your name, followed by a %sign, and after anything other than your %sign, you would be where you would write your commands. Tyler, are you on Windows or a Mac? Okay, when you click on the Git link, how do you update it? I'm not too sure how you would update it. I don't know if any of the other execs can answer questions in the chat, and then I could continue with the demo. Okay, to proceed, now let's add a username. So for that command, let's copy and paste this. And in the parentheses would include your name or whatever name you want to use as your username. It doesn't have to be the same username you use for your GitHub account. So you can really enter anything. And then once you do that, press enter. So while you do that, so this command, with every command you use in your terminal, you start it out by git. Config is short for configuration. //global just lets your operating system know that this will be your username for your operating system, and then user.name to set your username, followed by and quotation marks would be your username that you like to use. So once you enter that, press enter. I already have a username, so I'm not going to press enter, but to make sure that your username has been set, let's copy and paste the command in step 4, and let's paste it into our terminal. And let's press enter. Now an output should show us the username that we just added. Up to, and we've also put a couple of screenshots just in case you got lost. But let's continue. Now let's add our get email. So this is an important step. In this step, in the command line, you would want to enter the email that you used when you created your GitHub account. So let's go to github.com, and at the top right corner, you should see your profile picture or image. Let's click it and let's go to settings. So first we're going to add an email to our GitHub account on the website. Once you go to settings, let's go to access on the left side. Under access, click on emails. Next, under add email address, add your email address that is going to be your primary email address. So in my case, I use this email. Enter your email in this place and then click add. And now once you add your email should show up like this, but if you haven't verified your email, you'll get a red warning saying not verified. So click on that and follow the steps to verify. So GitHub will just send you an email, and then you will go to your email and follow the link that they send you. And then once you do that, you should get a similar message to the screenshot saying that your email was verified. So let's take a couple minutes to do that. So add email. Under add email address, click add and then verify your email. And let me know if you have any questions. And if you're done, just give me a thumbs up in the chat or like an email, so I know we can move forward. Sounds good. We have 2 thumbs up. Okay, let's give it 1 more minute. Okay, so once you've verified your email and you added it to your GitHub account on the website, let's scroll down a little bit. And let's make sure that this is clicked to keep your email address private. Just so whenever you use it, nothing is leaked. And yeah, anything below that, it's your preference. Depends on you if you'd want to, but what I'd recommend is to have this clicked for sure. So let's click on keep my email address private. And now so once we've added our email to GitHub, now we could go back to our command line or terminal. And let's add a couple of commands to add the email, to connect our GitHub and get email. So to do that, let's go to step 8 and let's copy the command git config / global and username. And then the quotation marks is where you include the email that you just added to your GitHub account. So make sure that your spelling is correct. And once you double check, press enter. I'm not going to press enter because I've already added my Gmail, but if this is your first time doing, make sure you enter this command. And it's the same as the one you just added on GitHub and verify. Okay, so once you've done that, now let's verify that our email has been added. So similar command, git config / global user.email, press enter. Now you should have an output of the email that you just added. And just give me a thumbs up once you've done these couple steps of adding your email to your Git command line. Nice to see a couple thumbs up. Okay, so just to recap the steps that we've taken, we've created a GitHub account, we've installed Git in our command line, we've we added our username in our command line for Git, and afterwards we've added our email to our GitHub account on the website and we verified it. Following that, we've added our GitHub email that we just verified to our terminal. So now you basically connected your GitHub and GitHub terminal. So now moving forward, you're able to add commands that would, so now Git would be able to track all your files you make whenever you use, when you begin coding. So, and one step before we get to the fun part of seeing all the magic happen with using Visual Studio Code in our terminal altogether, let's insert the command git config / global init.default.main branch main. And let's press enter and I'll quickly explain what this does in a bit. Yeah, and for anyone that just joined, we're using this GitHub repository for the demo, if you'd like to follow along. So what this command does is, you'll see in a bit once Israel begins the rest of the steps of adding code and then adding it to GitHub. This command changes your default branch. So we'll talk about branches in a bit, but the default branch that originally is in terminal, it's named master. So GitHub, they recommend that we change our branch to main rather than master, because originally once GitHub was new, they used the master branch, but now they want us to name this master branch main rather than master. And in our main branch is where we contain all code, where all official code will be located. But now I'll pass it over to Israel to get us started with going more in depth about branches, making commits and connecting your IDE to GitHub.
Thank you, Leandro. Let me start sharing my screen. All right. Can you guys see my screen with Visual Studio Code?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. So what we're gonna do is first we're gonna create a new folder. So if, by the way, if you open Visual Studio Code and you don't see this screen, if you have like a folder open, you can just go to File, and then in between these close editor and close window, there should be an option to close the folder, and then it'll bring you to this right here. What we're gonna do is first we're gonna create a folder right here, open folder, and we're gonna choose where we want it. And then for Windows, I'm gonna select new folder right here. I'm gonna do Git demo, but you can name it whatever you want. And I'm sure Mac is slightly different, but then I'm gonna do select folder. And as you see right here in the top left corner, it tells me I have Git demo as the folder. And I can come to my folder right here. On desktop, I have an empty folder. All right. And now, once we have the folder created, we're gonna head to our GitHub account, and we're gonna go to the top left corner, the plus button right here, the drop-down menu, and we're gonna create a new repository. So this repository, we can do git test, and then you can add a description if you like. Generally, I like to keep my repositories public, especially if I'm working on projects that I can demo to employers, because usually in a resume, you're gonna put your GitHub link on your resume, so that way employers can go to your GitHub and see all the projects you've been working on. And for README, README is pretty much just a description to pretty much explain what your code does, or if as you'll see later on in your development career, if you download packages, stuff like that, there's gonna be the steps, pretty much how to use it. And then git ignore, you don't need to know that for now, but generally is if you want to always ignore certain files from being added, then you can add it there. And license is pretty much explaining, pretty much gives people permission what they can do with your code. So I'm going to click create repository. All right, now we're going to go back to our terminal. I'm going to open our terminal right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to navigate. Right now I'm under my username, which is the base, and then we're going to navigate to our desktop. So in Windows, if you want to navigate to our desktop, it's a thing called CD, which is change directory, and then you can do desktop, right? And then, but for example, and now we need to navigate one more time to, once we're on our desktop, we need to navigate to our folder we just created. But let's say I don't remember what the folder name was or the exact stuff. So in Windows, you can do a thing called dir, which will give you all the folders, or in Mac, it should be ls. But so I'm going to change it to, so I'm going to change directory to git, if you pass it, git demo. Once I'm here, and once we're in here, we're gonna set the main branch. So once you create a repository, it gives you two options. Either you can create a new repository on your command line, or if you already have existing repository, you can push it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do create a repository. So you can see the command right here is called git init. That means it's gonna create our repository. So you see it's initialized empty repository. I just want to show you what happens. So if I come, you remember this empty folder? If I show the hidden items in this folder, as you see, there's a Git folder now created that pretty much tracks everything that we do in this folder. And then we want to create our main branch. And we'll explain exactly what the branches do later on. You see, we create our main branch. All right, once we created our branch, we need to find a way to branch down. Make sure you type git branch before. You always want to start off with git, so that will invoke the executable file for Git, and then you can write the command. All right, you're welcome. Yeah, so I want to point out, so whenever you use a command line, if you want to use a certain program, you always want to first type the name of the program. So if you can do Python, for example, you can type Python, but in this case, we're using Git. You're going to want to put Git, and then the second step will be the command we want to do. In this case, you want to create a branch, right? And then which is going to be the main. This is called a flag, right here. -m is a flag, and then we're going to name it main. So this is how we build their commands. All right, but now we have a repository on our local environment right here, and now we have a repository on our GitHub, but now we need to connect the two so they can communicate. So when we do that, as you can see right here, it's called git remote add. So it's going to be the command right here. Just want to break it down again. So as you see, the first, come back right here. So the first command is always going to be git. I'm invoking git. The second step is what do I want to do with git, which is remote, which means our remote repositories. And what I want to do with remote, I want to add a remote repository. And then origin right here is called an alias, which means that instead of every time having to type in the URL that we want to push it to, we can create or for programming terms, a variable, right, that will have in this case, we named it origin, but you can technically name it whatever you want. You can name it something that you remember, but general terms, you keep it origin. And then you post it, then you have the link right here that's to our remote repository. Let's click that. But now if you want to, just to point out my point a little further, if you want to see the remote, right? You want to see the repositories that are remote. So you can type git, and then you want to type remote. And you can see you have origin right there. But let's say, for example, if you forget which repository as well, sometimes you'll have multiple. You can type git remote, you're invoking, I want to use git, and what I want to do with git, I want to check my remote repositories. Then you can do a flag B, which will tell you the exact link for that. All right, so now that we've set up our remote repository, we're gonna actually start using Git and kind of show its power. So once you're in the folder right here, Git demo right here, you're gonna click the plus button, which is new file, and we're gonna name the file index.html, which will create an HTML file. I have the shortcut that will kind of bring a boilerplate for me, that kind of starts it up for me. If you probably do need extensions for it, so just for the sake of time, I'm gonna paste it to the chat, so you can just copy paste this code into it, this boilerplate. And then we're just gonna add a tag, we'll say, right, open and closing tag for paragraph. We're gonna say our first Git repo, right? And then you wanna, I have automatic saver, but otherwise you can right click, I believe, or you should go to file and click save, or hit Control S. All right, so now we made our first change. So the entire point of Git is that you can track all the changes you make to files, right? If you work in a big projects, you want to be able to track every step you make. So once we make that change and we save it, we're going to go back to the terminal, and we're going to type this command called git status, right? It will tell us the status of our Git repository. As you can see right here, it says we have no commits yet, and then we have an untracked file called index.html. So if it says untracked, and in red means it's not added, meaning it's not being tracked. So what we want to do is we do want to track this file, right? We want to add this. So to do that, we would do we type git add, right? But before we hit enter, there's two ways to really do this. You can either type index.html, or for example, if you have 10 files you want to add at a time, are you really going to type every name of your file? There's a shortcut for that. You can just add the period, and they'll add it for it. So now if I type git status again, as you see, changes to be committed. So now we have one file, index.html, which is tracked, and then it creates a log for it, so that we can always come back to it. And now once we add it, we want to commit it. So there's 2 steps to before we can push it to our repository. So we need to add it. So it's tracked, and once we done with it, we have to do a thing called commit. So again, we invoke git by typing git, and we type commit. All right, and then what do you want to do with commit? We want to add a message, so we add the M flag, and then we open and close parentheses, not parentheses, quotes, and we type our first commit, and then we just hit enter. And you can see right here, it says 1 file was changed, and we have 12 insertions. So we have 12 lines of code that's added. And now, if I type git status, again, as you can see, nothing to commit. So what we first did was we added our changes, so it was tracked, and then we committed our changes. Now there's nothing to commit because everything is committed already. Now we want to get it to our remote repository. So if I go back to right here, as you can see, we don't have anything yet, right? Because even though we connected it, but we haven't pushed anything yet. So to do that, we do git, we initiate git by typing git into it. And then what you want to do with git, we want to push it. And now, so once you need to have 2 parameters or 2 things you need to tell git, right? So where do you want to push it to? And then what do you want to push? So you have git push, where do you want to push to? Remember we had an alias called origin, right? That represents our remote repository. And then what do you want to push? Our main branch. And then boom, as you can see, we pushed all our branches. Now if I come back to our repository right here, I reload the page, boom, you can see our first commit was added to here. So I can come right here and boom, you can see my code right here. Is everybody up to speed at this point before we continue the next part?
Don't forget to put a thumbs up if you're all good.
Or if you have any questions that you
Yeah.
or Israel to like quickly go over again.
Look at it, Git is a lot, like especially when you first learn it. So definitely don't hesitate to ask any questions. All right. So, you know what, let's do this one more time. So let's say, for example, if I want to add another message, right? If a new message, right? All right, I save the file. Now, if I come back to the command line, right? I want to see if there's any changes. I do git status. As you can see, we have a file that's the changes wasn't added yet. So I want to do it. Right, last time I did git add period. This time I'm just going to do index.html just to show you both ways work. And now if I type git status again, boom, as you can see, it's green now. So that means it was added. And then next step after we add it, we type git. What you want to do is git, we want to commit. And then we add the M flag so we can add a message. And we type our second commit, right? Git add. Now I type git status again. Boom. Now it was added. Next thing we want to do is we want to push our changes to our repository. Right. So let's say, for example, I'm working on it. I'm like, oh, I don't remember what the alias was for my remote repository. I can just type git remote. Boom. Now it tells me git origin, right? So now I know I can type git. What I want to do with git, I want to push. And then I need to do where do I want to push it to? I want to push it to origin. And now what do I want to push? My main branch. Okay. Boom. And then if I come back to right here, our second commit. All right. Next, we're going to talk about branches, which is a really important topic. All right, so for branches, essentially what you want to do is, so you're always going to have a main code base, which a working code base usually. And the thing is, you want to add a new feature or something, right? You don't want to do it at the main code base, right? For example, if you have a paper, right, a term paper or something that you're working on, then you think, you know what, let me make some changes. Or if you have a template or something, right? You never want to make changes to the original document because then you're going to lose the original document, right? If you want to go back to it. So you're always going to want to create a copy of it and then add your changes there, right? So essentially, Git branches are essentially the same thing. So if I currently have my main code base, but I don't want to mess it up. So I'm going to do is I'm going to create a branch which is separate from my main code base, that I can play around with it, add features like Leandro said earlier, like buttons or something. It's pretty much anything. So to do that, there's really two ways you can do it. Either you can type git branch, right? So I have git, and then what I want to do with git, I want a branch, and then you can, what do you want to name the branch? You can name it, right, test, for example, right? And then that will create a branch. So now if I type git branch, as you can see, there's a main branch, and then there's the test branch, right? So the green one with a little star next to it, that means that's a branch I'm currently on. And now there's another branch called test. But if I want to go to the test branch, right, because I want to create a new feature, I don't want to mess up my main code, I can just type git checkout, and then I can type test. Boom, as you can see, now I'll switch to my branch called test. If I type git branch again, as you can see, I'm on the test branch right now. And there is another way to do this, which is a shorthand way of doing it, as you see in the GitHub document that we shared the link earlier. You can type git branch, what was it? Git checkout, yeah, checkout -b, and then you can type test tutor, for example, right? As you can see, so that way it puts it into one command where type your branch, it puts into one command, it automatically creates a new branch, and it automatically puts you on that branch. So there's two ways to really do it. For Git, there's always a million ways to do everything. So I'm just showing you different approaches. But let me just go back to, just for practice, let me go back to my branch called test, right? Git checkout, and I'm gonna do test. All right, if I type git branch, as you see, on my branch called test. So now I'm not on my main branch anymore. So it's a copy of my main code base. So it's not my actual main code base. Now let's say if I want to create some changes, right? A really nice new feature, right? So now if I come to here, so this is where the magic happens. So focus on right here, as you'll see, right? So right now I'm on my test branch. So what happens is if I go to git checkout to my main branch, right? Oh, I know. Before we do that, we go back to my test branch. So I go to git status. As you can see, I have a untracked file. So I'm going to do is git add, right? Index.html. Boom. Status. You can see it was added. Now I do git commit, right? I want to commit it, and then I have the end flag because I want to put a message. And I type our first branch commit, right? And boom. Now if I come git checkout to my main branch, as you can see, boom, it disappears. Because right now I'm on my main code base, and anything changes I made on my branch doesn't affect my main code base. Now if I come back to my git checkout to my test branch, see, it pops back up. So whatever I do my branch doesn't affect my main code base. So now what we want to do is, so we create a separate branch, right? So let's say we work for an employer and we create a new branch to make our changes. Now we want to thing called create a pull request. So we're going to make sure we're on our test branch, and then we're going to do git push, right? And as you'll see, git will give you a command that you need to insert to push that branch. So since we created a new branch on our local repository, but that branch doesn't exist on GitHub yet, so you have to input this command in git push -set -upstream origin, which is where we want to push it to, and then which branch we want to push. We want to push the test branch. If I do that, boom, I pushed it. Now if I come back to GitHub, I reload. Just to point out, you see right now there's one branch. If I reload, see now there's two branches. So if I click on the two branches, as you can see, I have a main branch and then I have a test branch right here. But let me just go back to my main code right here. So this is where the magic happens. So as you see right here, I have a pop-up right here. It's called compare and pull request. So because it creates my changes live on a separate branch, I need to merge it together. So to do that, usually you're not gonna have permission. In your own repository, you will, but in somebody else's repository, then I just want you to just push your changes. So you have to do a thing called a pull request, which means you request to push your code into it. So once you do a pull request, it's asking you, well, what do you want to merge to what? So right now we're saying we want to compare our test branch to our main branch, right? Because we want to push our test branch into our main branch. So, and we can add a title, our first branch commit, and we can type a message, a comment, right, to the person who's going to review our pull request, and we're going to do create pull request. And you can see it's checking for if it's compatible, and if there's no conflicts, you'll get this green check mark, right? So now, before I merge a request, I just want to show you a couple of things. So you can come to files change, it will tell you exactly what files will change. And then if you come to commits, right, I can see right now we only have one, but many times there'll be dozens of them. So you can click on our first commit. As you'll see, on the left-hand side is our main code base. On the right-hand side is our changes, which we're trying to merge. As you can see, there's a plus sign right here, highlighted in green, that line, which means we added this. If you remove something, it will be like a minus sign, in red. But in this case, we added something, so it's going to be a plus and a green line as well. Now to go back to the conversation right here, as you'll see, if we don't like the code, we can always close the pull request and say, you need to fix X, Y, and Z. But in this case, we want to merge our pull request. So we're going to click merge pull request, and we'll get this pop-up. If you want to confirm merge, and then merge request successfully merged and closed. So now, if you come back to our main top left, you click code right here. As you'll see, click on index.html right here. As you'll see, it's merged into our main code base, right? But, so our GitHub, everything is up to date. But locally, right, if I come back to Visual Studio Code, and as you'll see, we still have the two different branches. It's not together yet. So if I type git branch, right, I want to see which branch I'm on. I'm on my test branch. So I'm going to type git checkout, and then I'm going to type main. And because we're on our main branch now. So now I want to pull the changes that happen on our remote repository. To do that, we type git. So we want to invoke git, right? And then what do you want to do with git? You want to pull. Where do you want to pull from? Then we want to pull from origin, which is our remote repository. And then what do you want to pull from origin? We want to pull our main branch, right? And just pay attention on line 11 right there on the left-hand side. You'll see once I pull it, as you see, now we have all the changes on our main branch. Again, with branches, it's a bit complicated at first, and there's dozens of ways of doing things, but this is just a good demo to introduce the branches, and definitely practice. Practice is important. All right. Right, perfect. So now we can do this. But anybody has any questions before I continue?
A quick diversion.
Sure.
I see that one person experienced an error where the terminal asked him to provide the username and password. Do we have time to show how to create a GitHub token for the account?
Do you really want to do that today? You guys want to do that? I wanted to copy through the branches at least one more time.
Yeah, I think at the end of the meeting, if Andrew wants to stay, we could quickly go over that. But for now,
Sure, yeah. I agree with you, Andrew. I'd rather not confuse people. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So now I'm just going to do this one more time, just to kind of get that practice in. Right. So if I want to create any changes, Right, I do our second feature. I probably should do that on our other branch. So if I be a branch, I'm on the main branch. I want to do this. Check out the test branch, right? Let me just go back here. Let me just delete this just for now. As you see, Git will always close that since I added a change there. As you see the little M, that means I have, give me 1 second. See, perfect. Now nothing's there going on here. So now I do Git check out to our test branch again. And now I can just do this one more time, right? I put it back, second feature. And now if I type git status, you'll see we have another change right there. Remember, what we want to do is we want to do git. What do you want to do with git? We want to add, then the shortcut, the period, and type git status again. I see it's added. Next, I want to git. What I want to do with git, I want to commit. I want to add a message. So I add the message flag, and I type our second branch, our second feature. Okay. Boom, it's committed. Now, if I want to do git push, right? But now the branch already exists on the remote repository, so we don't have to do the same thing we did earlier. So now we do git push. Where do you want to push it to? We want to push it to origin. And what do you want to push? We want to push our test branch. Type that. As you can see, it got pushed. I'll come back to my thing right here. I reload. See if I come to my branch right here. It was updated 32 seconds ago, right? So you can see, just point out, this time it didn't pop up right here, like the pull request. You know, we're going to get that. So sometimes you got to go to branches from right here, and then you can manually click new pull request. All right. And as you can see again, we're comparing our test branch again to our main branch. And you see the little check mark says it's able to merge, which means there's no conflicts. And we just type hello there again, right? A second comment. And then we create pull request. You see it's checking for ability to merge. As you see, there's no conflict, so you can merge it and you merge pull request. And our second feature, confirm merge, and boom. And then as again, you come here again, commits. And as you can see, we added our second feature right here. And I could do one more time where, let's say I take away, right? So if I'm, just one more time before we continue, I want to bring the changes down to our main branch, right? So I'm going to do git checkout to our main branch, right? As you can see, the feature is not there. So I'm going to do git pull from where am I going to pull? From origin. And then the main branch. Boom, now it's there. All right, so let's say if my voice is gone. But let's say if I want to, let's go back to our test branch. All right, as you can see, both branches are up to date with each other. So, but let's say if I want to take away a feature, right? So if I want to delete this, right? And I save the file, I'll come back to here, git status, right? As you can see, we modified something. So we're going to do git add and a period, and then type git status again. Now it's added. Now git, what I want to do with git, I want to commit. I want to add a message. And I want to say we deleted some messages, right? All right, so now if now we need to push it to our remote repository. So I'm going to do git push. Where do I want to push it to? I want to push it to origin, right? And what do I want to push? I want to push the main branch. Everything push origin main, everything up to date. Interesting. That's weird. What branch am I on? Oh, so you see the mistake I made. So I said git push, right? I want to push it to origin. I don't want to push my main branch. I want to push our test branch, right? Because that's where we made the changes to. Just pay attention to that. See, even I made a mistake. So now that pushes it, because earlier I pushed our main branch, which had no changes. So I pushed the test branch. Now, if I reload right here, as you can see, my test branch was just updated, right? And then I can create a new pull request. Again, I'm comparing my test branch to my main branch right here. I want to say, right, deleted some messages, and I do create new pull request. Now, if I come to commits right here, and I click on the thing, as you'll see, on the left-hand side is the main code base, and the right-hand side is our new code base. But you see there's a difference here, right? So our new branch is missing some stuff. So Git knows we deleted that. So now it says if we merge these stuff, it's going to remove these 3 lines right here. So now if I come to right here, I do merge pull request, I confirm the merge. See, it was successfully merged. And then if I come to the main code base, and if I click on index HTML right here, as you'll see, we just have just 1 line of code. Now, if I come right here, I come back to my checkout to our main branch, right? And then I do git pull, right? I want to pull the changes. From where do I want to pull it? I want to pull it from origin, and then what I want to pull the main branch. Let me just pull Visual Studio Code so you can see the changes as I hit enter. Boom, as you see, it disappears right there. Yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. Any questions? Anything I can elaborate on? Anything I can help with? All right. I think that pretty much concludes the demo.
Yeah, thanks, Israel. That was great. If anyone has any questions, we can quickly go over at the end of the meeting. If you were coming across errors like asking for your password or once you enter like the command git push, then we'll be sharing the solution to that is this. I'll be sharing it in the chat, but I'll also update the document and the Git repository that we were using that contains all the code. Yeah, so I'll add it to this document here, just so you have it in case you did come across the error and it prevented you from doing the remaining steps. Yeah, but let's continue and now let's wrap up this meeting. I know it's almost the end of the community hour, so. Okay, now I'll pass it over to Annie to quickly talk about tools that you can use when collaborating with others using GitHub.
Okay, hello everybody. My name is Annie. Pleasure to meet you. I will give a short review of the project collaboration and what is typically included when collaborating with your fellow teammates, whether it be on a personal project or at a project in any company that you work for. So to start off, we usually see 3 things. One is Figma. Figma is a design tool created by a company called Figma. It is recently acquired by Adobe. It is an awesome tool to design anything, be it a mobile app or a website. We usually see HackMD. This is a website to, yes, Leandra? Leandra, we can see your screen. Oh dear, please. It's okay. Oh dear, please excuse us. Let's start all over. So once again, Figma is is absolutely an awesome tool to do designing. You can design a website or a mobile app using this tool created by the company called Figma, and it is recently acquired by Adobe. Next stop, we have HackMD. Now, this is a website that is great for drafting up your READMEs before putting it on your GitHub repository. It is also perfect to do a draft on any other markdown files like documentation. Notion, yes, some companies do use it. Notion is an app created by the Notion company. This is to stay organized, take down any notes. I personally use Notion to keep track of the resources that I encounter when creating a website, a mobile app, or even just a textbook for some of my courses. So the first step in any project collaboration is to set up a new GitHub repository so that everyone has the access to the latest code. Yes, your repository on GitHub is your official code base. This is really important when managing different versions in the in your product, so that one, you can keep track of your changes, and two, you have the official files, the official changes to refer to when keeping track of such changes. Now, to access the latest changes, you have this funny little GitHub git command, git pull origin. Let me put that on the chat. Next slide, please. All right, so GitHub tools and concepts. These are these are some of the most common concepts to know when working with teammates. So first off, we have project board. It is usually composed of columns like your to-dos, your in progresses, and your dones. You also have your milestones on GitHub, and these are usually the ones where the issues are grouped together. We refer these grouped issues as sprints. Yes, in companies, in any companies, tech companies, sprints, they usually set a deadline to complete all of the issues in that group. So yeah, it's pretty intensive. For issues, these are like what you jot down as the issue, and they're pretty much the smallest unit of the project. Your branches, they are to build new features or components of the project. Your pull requests are your comparisons between your new changes, your proposed changes, and your old code. It could be anything ranging from a new feature that you want to propose to be implemented, or a bug fixes that you might have encountered in the official code base and you want to correct it. Next step, next slide. All right, club announcements.
Yeah, thank you, Annie. So just before we wrap up, a couple of club announcements. So our next event will be on October 11th. That's on a Tuesday, same time. All events are Tuesdays at the same time. So this event will be in person and via Zoom. So whichever works for you. And for the in-person, it will be in room Heron Hall 200. So we'll be sending announcements this week about the event with more info, but it'll be our first cybersecurity event of the semester, and we'll basically be talking about what you could do to get started with cybersecurity. If you're new to the field, we'll talk about a couple of resources, and we might even have a demo. So yeah, stop by if this is something you're interested in. October 11th, Tuesday at 1:40 p.m., virtual and in person. I also quickly wanted to talk about our club website. So I'll quickly go to our website. Yeah, so club websites where you'll find information about the club, about our events. So if you ever feel like you don't know what events we're having, just go to our website. We have a quick summary of what we'll be doing, information like the time, where the meeting is, and the Zoom link. So there's that. And also for a website, if you feel like you know HTML, CSS, or JavaScript, and you would like to contribute and add features to the website, we also have a GitHub repository where you can do that by creating a pull request and cloning our repository. So I'll quickly go over that. I sent the link in the chat, but if you go to repositories and locate the website, this is our files. And if you're interested in collaborating with us in adding new features to the website, there's a couple of steps that you would need to do in order to begin this. So some of these steps are actually steps that we went over during the demo today, so it'll be good practice if that's something you're interested in. Yeah, so that's that. And also October 6th, next fair, there will be a career fair. We've sent the flyers a couple of times, but we'll send it in our Discord later today. It's basically a new role and internship fair. We're located at John Jay on October 6th. More information on that in our email and in our Discord later today and tomorrow. And also, so we will be having a club hackathon. We've actually decided on a date. The date will be October 27th and 28th, I believe. But we'll be sending an email next week with more information, with all the details solidified. We'll be sending out the day, the prizes that will be announced, information like that. But typically we're aiming for 3 to 4 persons in one team, and your projects don't have to be coding related. So if you're not that comfortable with coding yet, and this is your first semester at John Jay, you'll be able to create like prototypes of what your application would be like if you were to code it up. And we've also recently added a cybersecurity news channel in our Discord. So I don't know, Israel, if you quickly wanted to talk about the channel that we added.
Sure, yeah. In our workshop event was last week, we talked about how cybersecurity is very important to stay up to date. We thought the best way to do that is we have the latest news going on. So we set up a bot that will post news stories into the cybersecurity news channel. So on average, about 20 a day or so. So you can see the headlines. If you want to read the articles, the interested, you can read the articles, and that's the best way to stay up to date with the recent events. And cybersecurity is a very fast moving field that it's important to stay up to date too.
Yep. So we're going to make that public today, and we also have merchandise in the works, and more information on that in the following weeks. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. Hopefully you learned a lot. We will be sending a recording of this on our Discord and via email tomorrow, so make sure you're in our Discord and you're signed up to the club's mailing list. So yeah, have a great rest of your week. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you in our next meeting.
Thank you for teaching us.
Of course. And if you have any questions, feel free to stay. We'll be happy to answer them.
Take care, everyone. Have a nice day.
See you.
All right, any questions? Hi, Biela. Hi, I hope I have pronounced your name correctly.
Hey, Bilal, yeah, do you have a question? Feel free to send it in the chat if that's better.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but thank you guys for joining us, and let me
Thank
stop
you,
the
thank
recording.
you.